Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hello and welcome to Cheap Shot Entertainment. I am your host Luke and you are the Cheap Shot Nation, and this is everything that went down at Summerslam at the Allegiant Arena on the 21st of August 2021. First major pay-per-view in front of fans in over 18 months. Well, we had a very mixed show, but I'm going to take you through all of the action, including the pre-show. So if you haven't watched it already, then go ahead and watch it. This is just my opinion and my analysis of the show. If you have watched it, make sure you leave a comment, like and subscribe to the channel. Incidentally, wearing a Leo Rush t-shirt. I know he's not with WWE anymore, but this one came from WrestleCrate UK, so want to give you a shout out, fellas, and we'll get into the main part of the video. So we begin SummerSlam in Las Vegas, Nevada, with a pre-show match between Big E and Baron Corbin, who for some reason is feuding with Big E over the Money in the Bank briefcase. Yes, I have my very own, and it is a lunchbox. Haven't used it in quite a while, so it's getting a bit, yeah, it's just more of a display piece, but it looks pretty damn cool. So, what did I think of the pre-show? Well, actually, I thought the pre-show was actually pretty darn good. Both guys put in a lot of effort here. The match structure was perfect for a pre-show, and the fans were absolutely behind it. All 51,326. Now we know WWE are good at cooking numbers, but it did look pretty full, and the stadium was gigantic for a SummerSlam anyway. But this match, I think, was one of the best on the card. And I say on the card as pre-show, someone has to start, and it was a great way to start. Big E got the win over Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin continues his downward spiral. There was fighting on the inside of the ring, obviously that's where the pin has to take place, but they also took it to the outside as well, with Big E diving through the ropes, hitting his patented spear. Like I say, they were fighting over the Money in the Bank briefcase. Is Big E going to cash that in later on, having had a match? Who knows? We'll find out later on. But for the time being, I'm going to give this match a very good rating of 4 cheap shots out of 5, because I was very entertained by this. It kicked off the show, and it was really good. It was well structured, and it was just ultimately entertaining. I do incidentally like both of these guys. I know people don't necessarily like Baron Corbin, but I think he's alright, and he does his job of being a monster heel, and that is exactly what Big E needs at the moment, because he's kind of floundering. So we need him to, be winning matches against Baron Corbin and other lower mid-card heels, so he can be built up to cash in that Money in the Bank briefcase and become a champion for a reasonable amount of time. Moving straight on to the main show now, we kick off the main show with the Raw Tag Team Championship match. It is between AJ and Omos and RK Bro, the newly reformed RK Bro, with Matt Riddle gaining Randy Orton's respect, although Randy Orton seems to have lost a lot of respect because of that really weird mustache he's sporting. I feel like it might be to stick it to WWE games and, just say, oh hey, get all the hairs in the mustache, because that is important. Anyway, it does feel like you've taken Randy Orton, put a mustache on him in a WWE game, not 2K20, but in a game, and just said, yeah, why not? Give Randy Orton a mustache. Maybe he's going for the cowboy gimmick that his father had way back when. Anyway, let's get on with this match. I thought this match, again, a great way to kick off the main show. Always good to kick off with a tag team match, and you could tell with the structure of this match again. Yes, I am analysing it with regard to structure, because I'm doing match study and I'm actually training to be part of a wrestling show. So that is why I'm more in the structure wise and things like that. But you can tell with this match you've got two very well seasoned veterans in AJ Styles and Randy Orton, who probably put most of this match together. And then you've got Matt Riddle, who does his thing with the flippy stuff, and Omos, who just stands there like a mountain. And both worked very well in this match. Uses, the matches that Omos is in is used very, very well. Same with Matt Riddle, got all the talent in the world. And teaming in with Randy Orton, you've got the crazy guy, and then they just straight out serious deadpan Randy Orton, and it just works really, really well. So the match finishes with the right outcome, in my opinion. RK Bro finishes with an RKO to AJ Styles, and again the right person took the fall, the right person got the pin, and we have new Raw Tag Team Champions. I'm going to give this one again a really good score. I'm going to give it 3.5 cheap shots out of 5 because again it was really entertaining. Great way to build up the fans for a 4-hour show. Now in the UK it starts at 1 o'clock. I'd appreciate it being started a little bit earlier, because at 5:30 in the morning I don't want to still be up. On a normal day I would be getting up for work at that time. Anyway, enough of the ranting for WWE, but they did actually start doing shows at 12 o'clock here in the UK over lockdown, so don't know why that's changed, to be honest, especially seeing as how it was on a Saturday night. But yeah, 3.5 cheap shots out of 5, really good match, but it would go downhill a little bit from here, so brace yourselves. Next match is a complete waste of time, and I really hate saying this. It is a women's match featuring a former SmackDown and Raw Women's Champion in Alexa Bliss, who seems to be the new friend, fiend, whatever you want to call her, and Eva Marie, along with Doudrop. Yes, why not take one of the most established women in British professional wrestling and call her Doudrop? Yes. Anyway, this match was not really a match. It was Alexa Bliss winning with the spooky stuff. Eva Marie being heel and slapping Alexa Bliss with the doll. Yeah, that was it. 1 cheap shot out of 5. Alexa Bliss wins. Let's move on. Would go uphill a little bit from here because we've got the US Championship next, and it is Damian Priest going against the current US Champion, that's the United States Champion for those who are not in the know, Sheamus. And again, another good match. I'm giving some decent scores out in the early going with this one. Really good match. These two know how to work with each other. Damian Priest coming into his own, having made his debut at WrestleMania, being overshadowed by Bad Bunny. Essentially, Bad Bunny was entertaining, but Damian Priest's first match and he's being overshadowed by a pop singer. Anyway, Damian Priest is coming into his own, which is good. He's got good backup in Sheamus, a seasoned veteran, multiple time champion, and knows exactly what he's doing. I like these two going head to head. They have very similar stature. It's just a house fight, and I do love a good house fight. Now, what happened in this match? Well, Damian Priest would hit the Reckoning on Sheamus after removing the face mask protecting Sheamus's nose, and he would pick up the victory. Damian Priest is your new United States Champion, and much like I predicted, this one, again, it feels right. It feels like the right time to push someone who has come up from NXT, give them 5-6 months, and then give them a championship. And it just feels like it's been built up properly into something that you want to actually see. Now, again, like I say, this match ultimately very entertaining. The structure was good, and they did all the right moves at all the right times. And the crowd again was behind it seemingly, because these two are very good at what they do, and they do work great together. I'm going to give this one 4 cheap shots out of 5 because I can, and it was, like I say, it was entertaining to me. Let me know what you think in the comments section down below, or join us on social media, Instagram, Twitter or Facebook. We get the SmackDown Tag Team Championships being defended next. It is the Usos, the current SmackDown Tag Team Champions, versus the Mysterios. That's Rey and Dominic. Dominic is now coming into his own as well, which is good. Pushed straight onto the main roster, so we know why that is, or we can presume why that is, and that is because obviously his dad is Rey Mysterio. But yeah, he's starting to come good. The tree is starting to bear fruit, so to speak. And Mysterios, really like them. They work really well together, as you would expect from father and son, who, I'm guessing Rey Mysterio did have his hand in training Dominic. And of course the Usos, one of the best tag teams in modern history. So after an absolute barnstormer of a match, these two teams just beat each other up. The Usos end up doing their patented double splash, picking up the victory and retaining the championships. The Mysterios did get their fair share of offense in, but it wasn't their time again this time, because the Usos are just well seasoned and they know each other inside and out, and that makes an ultimately massive difference. And of course the storyline with Roman Reigns was one of the most entertaining things of 2021, as both Usos became part of the table. Now this match I'm going to give another 4 cheap shots out of 5, because again, it was a good tag team match, and WWE have some decent tag teams. Yes, some of them are thrown together, some of them are not. The Usos, the Mysterios. And problem is with WWE and tag teams is that they don't really have any recognised tag teams in their ranks at the moment. It all seems to be, oh yes, let's put father and son together, let's put Randy Orton and Matt Riddle together, although that does ultimately work very well for them. Now we get the SmackDown Women's Championship next. It will be Bianca Belair defending against Sasha Banks. Oh wait, there's more. She's now defending against Carmella because Sasha Banks is not turning up to the show. Oh wait, there's more. A massive, huge, humongous return of Becky Lynch. The man makes her return after pregnancy and maternity, and makes you wonder where the baby is. Maybe she's just been left with Vince, I don't know, but both mum and dad are wrestling on this show. But Becky Lynch makes a return, beats up Carmella, and then ultimately pins Bianca Belair in about 10 seconds. Seems like a waste of time really, doesn't it? Huge Becky Lynch fan, but I feel like probably could have come down after the match and then challenged Bianca Belair to a match. But as one of my friends did say, ultimately the drama is better when you've got a babyface chasing the championship. But does this make the man heel? I don't know. They put a lot of effort and time into Bianca Belair over the last couple of months since WrestleMania. Beating Sasha Banks, beating Bayley, taking out some of the biggest names in the SmackDown Women's roster, for Becky Lynch to come back and hit a rock bottom. I don't even know what that move is going to be called. It is a rock bottom, and The Rock always used to use it, and he always used to win with it, which is fine. But I just feel like this one could have been done ever so slightly different for my taste. But that's fine. Some people liked it, some people didn't. Title to your opinions. and this is mine. I think this one could have been done differently, and it wasn't really a match at all because we didn't even get a match, so I'm going to be lenient with this one just because of the return and the fact that it was huge and the way they did it to, you know, annoy people with the Carmella thing, which I don't mind Carmella, to be honest, with the Carmella thing, and then bring back Becky Lynch. I'm going to give this one a cheap shot out of 5, and yeah, it could have been better. We'll see where it goes. I'm sure WWE have a plan for the man. So one of the matches I was actually looking quite forward to is 2 members of the 3-man band going against each other, Jinder Mahal and Drew McIntyre. It's good, in my opinion, that Drew McIntyre has dropped down the card a little bit. He's got to claw his way back up to that main event status once again. And Jinder Mahal, I thought his work as a heel when he was WWE champion was pretty decent. I know people thought the same thing. You know, like, he was pushed into the stratosphere way too quickly, and yeah, I agree with that, but ultimately he was a transitional champion, and it led the way for one of the greatest title runs in recent WWE history in AJ Styles picking up the championship on a house show in England. So, you know, every cloud has its silver lining. This one, however, did have no silver lining whatsoever. I was expecting much more from these two, knowing what Drew McIntyre can do and what Jinder Mahal is capable of. This one was ultimately not very entertaining. Drew McIntyre did win with a Claymore kick and swing an actual sword at Jinder Mahal's henchman. 1 cheap shot out of 5. Not entertained by this one at all. I was expecting much more from this one. Could have been a sleeper hit. Didn't have the time to do it. Didn't really even try. They just sort of turned up. And this is my ultimate problem with WWE at the moment. Just chucking people in, making the shows 4 hours long. Why? And you know, they're not. You know, you get the feeling that some aren't making the effort because they're just there. They're not. So there's no stipulation to the matches because of the way the pay-per-view schedule is, which I will go through later on as my opinion as to what needs to change now AEW are actually gaining some momentum. Again, not a good match. 1 cheap shot out of 5. We get the Raw Women's Championship next. It is a triple threat match with Nikki, almost a superhero, versus Rhea Ripley versus the Queen, Charlotte Flair. Now this match, actually, you can tell that Rhea and Charlotte Flair are actually getting some confidence with each other. They're actually gaining that little bit of a friendship. They're actually gaining that little bit of chemistry with each other from way back last year at WrestleMania. They, you know, didn't really gel, but they had a good, decent match. This year was much better for Rhea, and since then, since being put on the main card fully, she hasn't really sort of taken off. Belair definitely had a better trajectory, but with working with Charlotte Flair, you can see the confidence coming in, and it just works for Rhea, and you can tell that chemistry is there. Nikki Ash, seasoned veteran, she does love playing the superhero, and I love her playing the superhero. I think it works really well in a world that needs more superheroes. You know, the guys and girls of WWE, of AEW, any wrestling company are real life superheroes to some people, and you know, it's fine. I'm happy with it. She's won a championship dressed as a superhero with a butterfly as a logo. So you know, there's little nods here and there to her trajectory to that position. But I did actually find this match quite entertaining. I've gone straight run of the mill here. It was a new champion, a champion crowned So we had a title change here, and it was Charlotte Flair, of course, picking up her 13th championship, and since being on the main roster, which is ridiculous, and it was the figure eight ultimately that would lead to that victory. So Nikki was there literally as a transitional champion to take the fall because they wanted Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair to have more matches. Now, I don't mind that, just think it needs to be down the line. We need some more challenges. We need a new challenger coming in to WWE to challenge Charlotte Flair, because ultimately she is very good. WWE are going to try and butter her up as much as they possibly can, which again, I don't blame them at all, but I've had enough. She's good. She knows how to use the mic. She's probably the best on the card, but ultimately something's got to give. You've got to give the new people coming through more of a chance. You've got to, let Charlotte work with them and push them to the moon, as Cameron Grimes would say. But I'm going to give this one 2.5 cheap shots out of 5. Like I say, it was very down the middle, but they're definitely getting better at what they are doing between Charlotte and Rhea. And Nikki did have her little moments in here, but ultimately she didn't really get featured in the match. So yeah, new champion, Charlotte. Move on to another really good match now. It is Seth Rollins versus Edge, one that has been built up over many, many years. Seth Rollins ultimately, he didn't injure Edge, but obviously he came back and he had him head on the briefcase, and he played on the history. And this is what WWE needs to do more of. There needs to be more storylines involved in wrestling, and it's not just a pure wrestling show. This is what WWE should be. It's a weekly show with a pay-per-view at the end of the month. You need to build it up, chaps, It needs to be built up, and this one was actually built up really well. Lots of history between Seth Rollins and Edge obviously ultimately coming back and making his re-debut, his much anticipated return at the Rumble. Was it a Rumble? Yeah, it was actually, wasn't it? Because he won the Rumble, and then there's all the controversy about the triple threat. That's how long it's been. That's how little live wrestling I've been able to watch and things like that. So yeah, this match was really good. 2 seasoned veterans. The ultimate story was that obviously Edge had had a surgically repaired neck, and Seth Rollins' finishing move was a curb stomp. So the whole thing of, once I put my foot on the back of your neck, I'm going to re-break it and you're going to go home and you'll never wrestle again. Very sinister, but it worked. Really, really did. And the match was great as well. Told a fantastic story. Ultimately, it would be Edge that would win this. Did hit a couple of spears, and Seth Rollins got a lot of moves in as well, as you could expect. He is the most dastardly heel I can think of in WWE at the moment. Roman Reigns is a good heel. Seth Rollins does it ever so slightly better, in my opinion, for the storylines that he is in, of course. I'm going to give this one 4 cheap shots out of 5. It was ultimately won by Edge's new finisher, the crossface, and he also put in a sleeper hold when he couldn't make Seth tap out on that one, so ultimately it was by submission. We also got a transport back to the Attitude Era with the Brood music starting, Edge coming out of the floor. I actually quite like this. I know people who didn't, who thought it was a bit half-baked. Obviously you're not going to get Gangrel back. Christian's off doing his thing in Impact. It's never going to be a full Brood entrance. But I like the fire, I like the staging, I like the idea that he was going back to his roots with that, where he started, ultimately. So, good match, and one that I think actually stole the show. on this one. There's always an undercard match that does steal a lot of the show, and I think this one was it. Great match, 4 cheap shots out of 5. So we go on to the penultimate match now. It is for the WWE Championship, and it is Lashley, the almighty champion, versus Goldberg, who has come back to challenge Lashley, because Lashley has been an absolutely dominant champion. I really like Lashley as champion. I think he's doing very, very well. I think it was a long time coming, and I think they need to give him a bit more limelight with this one. So the match didn't go very long. Obviously Goldberg is like 56 years old, and let me tell you something, if I look like that when I'm 56, if I look like that when I'm 39, I'd be happy. The man's an absolute house when it comes to what he looks like, and ultimately he was doing this for his son Gabeberg, and it came down to an injury which was exploited perfectly by Bobby Lashley. Couldn't quite lock in the hurt lock, but he did ultimately stop Goldberg by attacking the knee, and the referee stopped the match. Yeah, stoppage. At that point, Gabe would come in because Bobby Lashley was going to attack Goldberg. He put Gabe in the hurt lock, which was pretty damn funny, and then apologised. So I saw transitions here to a time in the near future where WWE are advertising Extreme Rules, and Goldberg saying, "I'm going to kill you. I think we're going to get a rematch at Extreme Rules on the 26th of September. I think it's going back to a Sunday for the next one. This match, it was okay for what it was. Goldberg did get the early flurry in. Lashley came back. There was a few hijinks with MVP, and it didn't overshadow the match itself, which was good. And I'm going to give this one 2 cheap shots out of 5. It wasn't perfect by any means. It wasn't necessarily good, but it did the job of ultimately plugging that next match. So maybe he's going to go out on a high and have a really good sort of hardcore-ish match with Lashley, and I want to see that, because these two guys didn't really show me much in this match. Luckily, the last match was actually really darn good. It would see the return of the chosen one, John Cena, and he would be going against the Universal Champion in Roman Reigns, the head of the table, along with Paul Heyman. Now, this match did go on quite a way into the night, because John Cena can still pull it out of the bag and put on a good match even though he's in Hollywood. And this match was actually pretty darn good. They used the tables, they went on the outside, they beat each other up pretty good. Both got huge moves in, an attitude adjustment off the top rope for John Cena, several Superman punches and spears for Roman Reigns, and all the while Paul Heyman on the outside pulling the best faces that you could ever expect him to pull. Now, ultimately, the 2 Superman punches at the end and a spear would send John Cena back to Hollywood making mediocre films and collecting his paycheck, but the man can still go. And I do like his new t-shirt, which, that's me. I just like his new t-shirt. I think it's pretty cool. I am going to give this match the highest score on the card. It is going to be a 4.5 cheap shots out of 5, considering they didn't have much time to work on the actual storyline that was involved in this one. They did ultimately entertain me, and it seemed like the fans were behind it after a long slog in the middle of this pay-per-view. Very good match. It's good comeback for Cena. I don't know what's next for him, whether he is just going to go back to Hollywood, whether he's going to retire, do whatever, I don't know. But good match, Good on Cena. Reigns still remains the head of the table. I'm a very happy person. So, what I didn't tell you at the end of that last match is another surprise, but this one was actually done well, whose music hits at the end when Roman Reigns is celebrating with his title above his head and John Cena has ultimately rolled away back to Hollywood. Brock Lesnar. He's looking good, man. He's looked like he's trimmed down whilst adding a little bit of bulk, and he looks ready to go. He looks a lot healthier, he looks ready, and he looks like he's coming back as a babyface, which I'd never thought I'd say circa 2003. But as long as he doesn't try to hit another shooting star press from one side of the ring to the other, I think this one can actually work quite well. Not sure about his ponytail, but you know, we think he's going for the sort of Viking type look, which is fine. And you know, he's grown a beard, and like I say, he looks a lot healthier. So you know, we get the stare down. Paul Heyman's like, oh no, what we're going to do? Because Paul Heyman was ultimately the mouthpiece for Brock Lesnar for so many years, and then went with Roman Reigns. So yeah, that was good, and ultimately, you know, it was a good way to end the show, really, finishing on Brock Lesnar and people cheering Brock Lesnar after so many years. Does seem like a retaliation, really, but obviously it's been building up for many months, and just a retaliation to what AEW put out on Rampage. But ultimately, you know, it's good times to be a wrestling fan, isn't it? Anyway, SummerSlam, was it good? No. Was it mediocre? Yes. Was it watchable? Very much so. And you know, having stayed up until 5:30 in the morning to watch this one, yeah, I'm very tired. Bit delirious, and yeah, I'm going to go now, so make sure you click the subscribe button and like the videos. Ultimately, that is what we're here for. Leave us a comment down below if you've watched the pay-per-view. Let us know what you thought of the matches. Also in the prediction league, I think I did pretty well, actually. I didn't predict Becky Lynch coming back, but I might have gained some points here. We also have a new challenger in the prediction league. So, I will see you for more wrestling goodness. The next one is probably going to be a live wrestling show that I review in House of Pain. They are in Reneth in Nottingham on Friday the 27th. So it's bank holiday weekend, wrestling on Friday, football on Saturday, possibly a film on Sunday, and then football again on Monday. I should learn to slow down a little bit. Nah, never. Anyway, you are Cheap Shot Nation. I have been your host, Luke. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Make sure you join us on social media, on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. And if you want to go and watch SummerSlam, it's available now on the WWE Network. Goodbye.
Hiya.